Cooperation and collusion. In The Wealth of Nations, Adam Smith wrote, people of the same trade seldom meet together, even for merriment and diversion, but their conversation of it ends up in a conspiracy against the public. In modern jargon, this means that competing firms in an industry may have an incentive to engage in collusion, defined as collective attempts to reduce competition. Because managers and students generally do not like to discuss collusion, another C word, coordination is now frequently used in preference to collusion. However, given the legal battle centered on collusion, managers and students cannot shy away from it. Instead, they need to confront the legal definitions and debates about collusion. Collusion can be tacit or explicit. Firms engage in tacit collusion when they indirectly coordinate actions by signaling their intention to reduce output and maintain pricing above competitive levels. Explicit collusion exists when firms directly negotiate output and pricing and divide markets. Explicit collusion leads to a cartel, an output fixing and price fixing entity involving multiple competitors. A cartel is also known as a trust, whose members have to trust each other in honoring agreements. Since the Sherman Act of 1890, cartels have often been labeled anti competitive and outlawed by antitrust law in many countries. In addition to antitrust laws, collusion often suffers from a prisoner's dilemma, which underpins game theory. The term prisoner's dilemma derives from a simple game in which two prisoners suspected of a major joint crime, such as a burglary, are separately interrogated and told that if either one confesses, the confessor will get a 1 year sentence while the other will go to jail for 10 years. Since the police do not have strong incriminating evidence for the more serious burglary charges, if neither confesses, both will be convicted of a lesser charge, such as trespassing, each for 2 years. If both confess, both will go to jail for 10 years. At a first glance, the solution to this problem seems clear enough. The maximum joint payoff would be for neither of them to confess. However, even if both parties agree not to confess before they are arrested, there are still tremendous incentives to confess. Translated to an airline setting, Figure 11.1 illustrates the payoff structure for both airlines A and B in a given market, let's say between Dubai and Cairo. Assuming a total of 200 passengers, Cell 1 represents the most ideal outcome for both airlines to maintain the price at $500 and each gets 100 passengers and makes $50,000. The industry revenue reaches 100,000. In Cell 2, if B maintains its price at 500 while A drops it to 300, B is likely to lose all customers. Assuming perfectly transparent pricing information on the internet, who would want to pay 500 when you could get a ticket for 300? Thus A may make 60,000 on 200 passengers while B gets nobody. In Cell 3, the situation is reversed. In both Cells 2 and 3, although the industry decreases revenue by 40%, the price dropper increases its own revenue by 20%. Thus, both A and B have strong incentives to reduce price and hope the other side become a sucker. However, neither likes to be a sucker, thus both A and B may want to drop prices, as in cell 4, whereby each still gets 100 passengers, but both firms as well as the industry end up with a 40% reduction of revenue. A key insight of game theory is that even if A and B have a prior agreement to fix the price at 500, both still have strong incentives to cheat, thus pulling the industry to cell 4, whereby both are clearly worse off. Industry characteristics and collusion vis-a-vis competition. Given the benefits of collusion and the incentive to cheat, what industries are conducive to collusion vis-a-vis competition? 5 factors emerge. Notice table 11.1. The first relevant factor is the number of firms, or more technically, the concentration ratio, defined as the percentage of total industry sales accounted for by the top 4, 8, or 20 firms. In general, the higher the concentration, the easier it is to organize collusion. Because the top 4 concentration in mobile wireless telecommunication services in the US accounted for more than 90% of market share, the antitrust authorities blocked the merger of the second largest firm, AT&T, with the fourth largest firm, T-Mobile. Specifically, the U.S. Department of Justice argued, the substantial increase in concentration that will result from this merger and the reduction in the number of nationwide providers from 4 to 3 likely will lead to lessened competition due to an enhanced risk of anti-competitive coordination. Certain aspects of mobile wireless communication services markets, including transparent pricing, little buyer-side market power, and high barriers to entry and expansion, make them particularly conducive to coordination. Second, the existence of a price leader, a firm that has a dominant market share and sets acceptable prices and margins in the industry, helps maintain order and stability needed for tacit collusion. The price leader can signal to the entire industry with its own pricing behavior when it is appropriate to raise or reduce prices without jeopardizing the overall industry structure. The price leader also possesses the capacity to punish, defined as sufficient resources to deter and combat defection. To combat cheating, the most frequently used punishment entails undercutting the defector by flooding the market with deep discounts, thus making the defection fruitless. Such punishment is very costly because it will bring significant financial losses in the short run. However, if small-scale cheating is not addressed, defection may become endemic, and the price leader will have to be the most to lose if collusion collapses. Thus, a price leader such as De Beers needs to have both the willingness and capacity to carry out punishments and bear the costs. Otherwise, an industry without an acknowledged price leader is likely to be more chaotic. Third, an industry with homogeneous products in which rivals are forced to compete on price is likely to lead to collusion. Because price competition is often cutthroat, firms may have stronger incentives to collude. Since the 1990s, many firms in commodity industries around the globe, such as shipping and vitamins, have been convicted of price fixing. Fourth, an industry with high entry barriers for new entrants, such as shipbuilding, is more likely to facilitate collusion than an industry with low entry barriers, such as restaurants. New entrants are likely to ignore the existing industry norms by introducing less homogeneous products with newer technologies. In other words, disruptive technologies. As mavericks, new entrants can be thought of as loose cannons in otherwise placid and calm industries. Incumbents have collective interest in resisting such new entrants. Ethical Dilemma in Focus 11.1. De Beers as an industry price leader. Most cartels collapse due to organizational and incentive problems. The longevity of the De Beers Diamond Cartel, now running for more than 100 years, is very unusual. A crucial reason behind such longevity is that De Beers is the undisputed industry price leader. It possesses both the willingness and the capability to enforce cartel arrangements. As in all cartels, the incentives to cheat are tremendous. Both producers and buyers are interested in cutting De Beers out of the process. As a price leader with a significant capacity to punish, De Beers' reactions are typically swift and powerful. In 1981, President Mobutu Sese Seko of Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of Congo, announced that his country would break away from De Beers by directly marketing its diamonds. Although only 3% of De Beers' sales were lost, its world order will be at stake if such actions were unpunished. Consequently, De Beers drew on its stockpiles to flood the market, driving the price of Zairean industrial diamonds from $3 per carat to $1.80, and wiping out any gains the Zaireans hoped to grab. While incurring disproportional losses, De Beers made its point, and Zaire crawled back to its knees. In another example, many site holders, De Beers approved diamond merchants, in Tel Aviv began to hoard diamonds purchased from De Beers in the 70s, hoping to combat Israel's rampant inflation. The disappearance of a substantial amount of diamonds from global circulation tightened supply, leading to skyrocketing prices and encouraging merchants elsewhere also to hoard and profit. While De Beers actually benefited from such higher prices in the short run, it realized that in the long run, such an uncontrolled speculative bubble would burst. In response, De Beers purged 1/3 of site holders and kicked out the most aggressive Israeli speculators. Cut off from their supplies, speculative merchants were forced to draw down their stockpiles, thus restoring prices to normal levels. Source is Diamonds, the Real Story, taken from National Geographic in the March edition of 2011.